Vince Smith. What are you doing now, Vince? You bike racing something, or?
I lost a toe last week. Lost a toe last week at Snetton.
Yeah. That's alright, you little bike and all this. I said, listen, you keep saying this is horrible to ride. I must be better riding than you. Yeah. If I can ride it, all these years, no big accident.
Extended.
Yeah.
Clutch is that tall now, it's all built up. You have to work the chain guide opposite way now because you can't get enough adjustment that way. Big sprockets. Pull the chain down rather than push it up.
Yeah. We'll make you famous. You'll have to write all this up. I've forgotten all.
It's an old ball grew up and that sprocket bolt comes undone. It's actually... see that with us.
Yeah, special packing.
Yeah. That's inside. Get the clearance and build that bush in the middle so that the clutch actuating pad in and touch it.
Yeah.
Round all the shaft out. So it misses the clutch.
Perfect job.
It used to just destroy 6-plate clutches.
It's never about another film, has it?
It's got a motorcycle crankshaft in it. Many years people used to guess what was in it, what bore and stroke it was, and all built up the welding. It's about how much thicker than standard. It just clears the back tyre. Just get your finger in it. The crank boats are about that big. Still see it was a TS1 barrel originally. Just go down here and bit the original fin. Otherwise I just think it made it. It's quicker and easier to make a barrel than it was to actually the way they actually did it.
2, please.
I'm going to get Facebook clutch blades then. Top plates in
That really clutch folks when they're on the shop, on the stock.
Yeah, the clutch it doesn't say. If you don't have any clutch space, you wouldn't have that many on the shelf in shop.
What sprocket has it got on it? 21? We've actually run it with 22. The biggest sprocket we ever used is 22. I don't think you need to worry about the gearbox, do you?
No, I was just going to finish up so last plate. No, a special soup plate.
There's a few people who like to have seen inside this over the years, I can tell you.
What happens to now? Where's it go from here? Are you not going to race again?
I personally won't know. Whether or not we... No, Guy won't. Guy's a motorcycle. In fact, Guy's just out of hospital. He's crashed his Metatinza and lost a toe on his foot. So lost a little toe.
But he's still smiling.
He's still smiling.
One little toe, he's got up on the other foot.
Yeah, it's got, well, I mean, the length of his toes and then much difference in it.
So who's going to race it now? Is anyone going to race it now? Or is it keep your storage? Don't know yet.
Don't film this bit because I've misplaced the clutch tab washer removing.
What are we going to do?
Do you mean there's a tool for doing this?
Yeah. Well, there will be.
Just undo that.
What? Tell your grandma I suck the web out. How are you going to see the clutch, mate? Well, how are you going to see that? Take it doing that some shims that guys not put to run it in line. I did them up many years ago. Still out again. That's a special plate to put in for the crankshaft. To make them as well when I was old as Lambretta. Right.
It's supposed to be off record, right?
Yeah. It's a tuning tip you don't give away very often.
Did you have to weld that clutch and then read through it on lathe and then kick them out?
Yeah. It's all made up from like the way they did that one. Yeah, clutch bells, you get another bell, you just put them back to back, right, prep them and then weld them up. And put it in the lathe and part it off.
Yeah.
You have to weld everything up because it just destroys everything. Pump some power out. All the end plate studs are all like Vespa exhaust studs. Grips everything to this.
LI150, and we just machine off third and fourth gear, and then make a special cluster piece, that's third and fourth, that's keyed and pressed on. And then that means the gear ratios then become, first gear is effectively LR150, second gear is LR125, third gear is pacemaker, get it right, and fourth gear is GP125. So all the gears very close together, but the problem with the close ratio gearbox is that it makes first gear very high, which is one of the reasons why on the rolling road I mean it'll do 60 in first.
Wait, it's the bike!
So it'll do 60 in first because the first gear is so high.
Ready to when,
But it means that the gears are very close together. But of course, for racing, you only need to start once. So you can afford to lose a bit at the start and make it up everywhere else. Which is one of the reasons that why when Guy went sprinting on it, it would never do really quick times. Guy was the first person to do under 14, wasn't he?
Less than 13, is it?
I think he did 13.96. He was the first person ever to get under 14 seconds. Just beat Fred Willingham's time. But of course Trev Harrison now is running a proper sprint bike that's super light, running funny fuel and not a close ratio gearbox. Because for sprinting, the worst thing you want is a close ratio gearbox because you want to get off the line really fast. But the first gear on this is very high.
What's that? What train? Which the prices lights.
Proper crankcase read in the back, which you can't do with a race bike, see, because the engine's got to be mounted in its original position. Plus, the Lambretta crankshaft actually runs.
Somebody did
the
one
wrong
from
way.
Oxford though years ago, didn't they? Somebody had one else back here. Well, and then we never said out of him again.
You remember Baru, don't you? Brownie and Dave Harrison, well they ran one. Dave Harrison ran one through the back. And the thing is with the Lambretta, is that for the proper crankcase read, it runs the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because the crankshaft is running away.
Yeah.
Whereas on a motorbike, as the charge comes in, the crank waves are going like that to force it down the back and compress it. There's lots of things I've learned now. I mean, like Gibbo's got my own 150 portable. You can run boost plates on top of the crankshaft and things to, like the RS Honda and TZ Yamaha. Stop. We're ready in another half hour, mister. Can't take it yet. There's the crankshaft.
He's open again.
No, just say standing quarter mile, it's done just over 13 seconds. That's in race trim, you know, we had to sprint meeting just for a bit of a giggle. That's carrying a lot of water and on a sprint bike you want to have all this. You don't have any weight into the shockers, presuming to follow a front brake. Not connected.
Up and water
About 90 kilograms on it. Quite heavy. Heavy indeed.
I'm busy. You're not as busy as me.
Dad said, hey boys, it's too late.
The idea of that is, say that's down to the normal, what you call the inlet port. That feeds straight down into the crankcase, down through the back. Straight into the crankshaft inlet.
I lost these last 2 burgers.
Give me belly.
It's always been very tough kit when the O-ring. Basically that's the water jacket. The guy made that one. The beauty of, you can see it hasn't run for a long while, it's corrosion. The beauty of that is that so that if you need to make a different combustion chamber or something, what you do is make the inner part and we'll make a complete head. And you can basically run, you know, corrosion on it. This is because in bike racing, you are allowed to run 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water, which stops corrosion. For some reason, scooter is brandy. Pure water only. These studs are picked up now. Bit studgy with all the water and it's all...
Have a one in there first.
There as well.
I think the other dudes when we were in the making stage, they invited me up to see. He was making that TS1 twin.
Yeah. Clean this up. Steel liner.
Shots. Those either there. That's light, isn't it?
Yeah. Exhaust.
There he comes with my back and siege marks on his piston.
Which is a shame. Say a bit.
Anybody want one?
Was it free like the burgers go?
And we sold it all day Saturday, and I spent a month doing basically nothing with that motor. You know, and not necessarily working on it all the time, but chasing around, taking it over, getting the thing welded, being there while he's welding it so you can say I want a bit here, too much there. Thickness of, there's about 10 millimetres of weld all the way around there. So I can show you actually, by wiggling it in. And then
No, you have to just cover all this now. It's yours now.
Just order on that.
The only way,
That's so you can see it.
the only way to find,
What about the light, Kev?
Oh, no, I'm not pointing anybody anymore.
the only way to find whether a crank would fit in was of course to weld all the casing and do all the work to it. We didn't want to do that and then find the crank wouldn't fit. If the crank hadn't have gone in, we would have put a flange around here and done the engine in a split. Like in fact the skipper is. The skipper engine is just like a Lambretta engine, but turned over the other way with a belt here, which has a chain here. And the guy found a lump of wood and spent about 2 hours, 3 hours on the lathe machining this up to all the dial drawings that we've got with a mag housing made from another piece of wood to slot it all together. But the joke was that it wouldn't run because if it got wet, the swell and seize on the crank. And Vince's crack was, he said, you're never going to be able to weld that onto the engine. But that's, the sort of things that we were doing to make sure everything worked. But it took about a month. Basically, I did nothing else for a month except just organising this lot. Making the exhausts and sorting out the wiring. The technology was nothing new because the first water-cooled engine I ever did was Norrie's LC1, the green one. And Norrie came to, this was when I was working from home as DJ Scooters, where he's gone to, but at Leicester. And at that time Norrie was an artificial leg service engineer. And he came to me with this idea. He wanted to do a Group 5 Vespa. And what he wanted to do, I said it won't work. Because he wanted to do welding on an iron barrel, and I said it's not practical. So we came up with doing an Altisa barrel, and he didn't want to cool it. He said it was too much trouble. But by the time we'd done all the welding to the fins, you have to take the fins off. You can't just, if you've got fins like that, and you want to make the port bigger, you end up with spaces at the bottom. You can't weld at the bottom here. You can't get into it. So you have to take all the fins off, weld at the bottom, and then try and put the fins back on again. And I said, it's just not worth it, you might as well water cool it. But he didn't want to do it. But in the end I talked him into it, and I did all the work on the motor, the cylinder head, and everything. And that's really, it was grown into this. We did LC1, which was the green one, and then we did a 200, that wasn't very successful. And then we did the Marlboro one, which was a flyer. And then Norrie did one, pardon? LC2. LC2, yeah. And then Norrie did another one that I think Dave Steele was running. Yeah. The motoristic barrel. That wasn't very good at all. I didn't have anything to do with that, unfortunately. I said it wouldn't work. I was proven right, it didn't. But the idea on this one is that the rules for scooter racing say that the cylinder stud centres have got to stay exactly the same. And the rules also said that you must be able to convert the engine back to run with a standard crankshaft and a standard barrel. And in fact, Guy has still got at home a Suzuki barrel and piston, an old one, that was machined in height, and a Lambretta crank with a specially made collar on it that would work inside the special flywheel bearing that's inside here. And we could actually, it used to go around with this stuff to race meetings, so if anybody ever put in a protest, we could within about an hour have ripped the engine to pieces and put it back together again running with a Suzuki 225 Lambretta barrel. And I actually ported the barrel just as a bit of a joke. But it would have run, but of course it would have run all that quick. But you've got to always work within the rules. Of course it's very easy to just get a 250 or a 350 crosser barrel and stuff it on and weld everything up. But the rules for scooter racing didn't allow that. In fact, they still don't. But the big problem is then that you're stuck with these four studs which are too close together. And then you can see there's no room around here to make the ports any bigger. So there's no point whatsoever in going for a really big bore. I mean, if you went for example, on the Mark Francis 250, these were in a 72.5 piston, and the piston was so big there was no ports left. So we thought the best thing to do was go for massive stroke, and we put the stroke up from 58 standard to 72 mil. But to do that, if we'd have machined the casing away, it would have all have disappeared. There'd have been nothing left. So we had to weld up the casing first, guessing how much weld to put on, and then machine all the inside out. And there was loads of fun there. I mean, one of the things was it was all set up on the milling machine, and there was another thou cut to come for the bearing surface, for the drive bearing to go in. Because with all the welding around, we had to run the crank on the seal on the outside, because the crank's much wider. If we kept the original crank webs the same as the Lambretta crank, it would just twist. So we needed the massive strength of the Suzuki crank that's in this, so there was no chance of anything twisting. And the only way we could do that was just put the seal to the outside. And so the crank was just really one of the things I dropped on out into the motocross shop. And there was a scrap crank lying around on the floor. And I saw it and I thought, I think we could use it. And it actually runs with Suzuki crankshaft bars, which are machined, a Yamaha conrod, no, a Honda conrod, and a Yamaha piston. The idea for the big stroke was to get the capacity. And of course the first thing you do is sit down with a calculator and work out what you can do. The class limit is 258, and this is actually 253 cc's, which was the biggest that we wanted to go to, so that the overbores, the rebores, would allow us to keep in the class limit. And we went for the very big stroke, so we could keep the bore size as small as possible for more room in the barrel for ports. I mean, if we'd have bored that out to say 72, we could in fact have made a 300cc bike, but the ports then would have just been a lot smaller because the barrel would have been out here. And so you're working within the limits. The weak link in this motor is really the gearbox.
So I showed them I couldn't nail it in first.
Yeah, because the brake teeth. But we found that the Spanish pacemaker gearbox was the strongest one to use. Do you want me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But the crankshaft taper, the crank that side was altered to drive to fit the Lambretta engine sprocket. A guy worked in a gear cutting firm at the time, and we took the crank to pieces and he recut the splines on the other side to fit into the engine sprocket. But the flywheel side was exactly the same taper as the motor-plated mission was standard.
There is a proper holding tool, but I think Gearbox took it on somewhere.
When you see the crank, you realise why it doesn't need a flywheel.
I'm still waiting for my cup of tea.
Yeah.
You've got
big ones that come out like that.
I'll show you something. Don't tell me down.
All taken. I'm going to get buckets of white wine.
Sit down. Yes. Well, show them. Have a glass.
They make everything spindly and make the engine so it doesn't vibrate at all by having an inbuilt balancer shaft. In fact, a lot of the road bikes have got that. But I mean, that's getting away from the technology and something like that. One of the problems with aluminium welding is that when you weld, you're welding it hot. But then when we came to put the original bearing back in the hole, it simply wouldn't fit because it had shrunk. So the problem next was that we had to bore out the hole that the bearing went in. Now there was only a very, very tiny amount to come out, and the guy was set it up on a Bridgeport milling machine with a fly cutter on it, chuck nozzle around it, and was boring the hole out. What we had to do was go back to the next stage, and I said to Brian, pacing up, bored the hole out much bigger and shrunk an aluminium collar into the hole, welded that in place and then bored it out again. And what we actually did was we made a steel cap for the bearing to fit and press the bearing into the steel cap, and then the cap bolts into the casing. But it's also a shrink fit.
Now I can see the difference.
Yeah, you can see by looking down there that if we'd have just bored that out, the whole thing would just disintegrate. So there was about 10 or 15 millimetres of weld all the way around here. And there was that much weld in the engine casing.
There's another photo of me like that.
Since the
There was that much weld.